let's do the honors of bringing in a very special guest to HuskerOnline Headlines. Let's welcome in former Nebraska Athletic Director Bill Moos, who is in his barn in Washington, I understand, right, Bill?
I am. I'm in the barn.
Well, Bill, what a beautiful barn.
Well, this is a 6,000 square foot barn that I literally designed when I was bored at Pac-12 meetings, when I was still in the Pac-12, and it turned out pretty good. There's never been an animal in this barn, but there is a full basketball court and a fly fishing room, and this room here where it's kind of my hangout.
All right. Well, Bill, you've obviously been retired, but you've been busy, and you've got a book project going on right now, and you've had an illustrious career between Oregon, Washington State, Nebraska. You played obviously at a high level. Give us an idea. What can we expect in this book? When will it be out? And how fun has it been to kind of maybe relive some of these stories from the past?
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been therapeutic, Sean. I actually been compiling materials for this book. It's a memoir, and it traces my life from a young boy in a one-horse town on a wheat and cattle ranch, 4-room country schoolhouse, all that. People in Nebraska know that whole deal. And learned to play 8-man flag football on an alfalfa field, and developed a dream of one day playing major college football. And through a lot of challenges and so forth, I got to live that dream, and that was kind of the foundation for my professional career. So it's got inspiration, motivation, determination, and triumphs and tragedies I think people can relate to, and also all in the with the backdrop of all the changes in the college game. I think I was telling Sip a month or so ago, it dawned on me that I was a part of college football on the 100th anniversary of the college football game, and was still involved with it at the 150th anniversary. So I've seen a lot. I've been listening in before I came on, and some of the things you're talking about, I never would have dreamt would be happening when I first got into it in 1969. So it's been a lot of fun, and I actually started writing the content of this book and working on the manuscript during COVID, when I was living in Lincoln, coming into Memorial Stadium and my office there. And out of 350 employees, there may have been administratively 15 of us in that building. But I made sure I was there every day. I thought that was important. We did a lot of Zoom meetings, but I also took time in between those meetings and such to put my templates together and really start the manuscript. And it's been a lot of fun.
Bill, you're an AD at Montana, Washington State, Oregon, and Nebraska. There's a lot of material to cover in a book. How prominent is Nebraska in this book? What's the feel of those chapters?
I have 2 chapters about my time at Nebraska. And, I think people know this, but I will reiterate my career. I was fortunate enough to, I thought, finish my career in 2010, where I started it as a 18-year-old college football player in 1969. So not many people get to do that. And we had built our ranch. We were having grandkids. Our older son was on the staff at Arizona State. He had played there, was an all Pac-12 defensive tackle. Our youngest son had just gone to Cal Berkeley on a full scholarship as a tight end, later moved to outside linebacker. So we had everything. We had our boat right at Lake Coeur d'Alene, just gorgeous, 30 minutes from our ranch. Life was good. But the Nebraska thing opened, as you know, when Sean Eichhorst left in October of 2017. I was 66 years old, almost 67.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at my wife, Kendra, and she and we've stepped into every one of these adventures all through our professional career. And I said, you know what, honey, I that's one of the iconic brands in the industry that we're in, and I'm going to take a run at it. And lo and behold, I got the job. And now what do? I have to leave home, sell the herd, lock up the barn that I'm sitting in right now. And what a great adventures as we journeyed into the great state of Nebraska. And it was an interesting 4 years. So much happened at the University of Nebraska, the state of Nebraska, and the state of college athletics, and especially football. And of course, the coronavirus, the COVID whole shutdown. It's worthy of 2 chapters in my book, because it wasn't what any of us signed up for when we got into this business, and only the really tough survived. And I got lots of examples of some of the great ADs and chancellors and presidents that got that done.
How would you characterize these chapters on Nebraska? Is it, I mean, without giving it all away, I mean, you don't want to give your book away now, but what should we look for?
One of the chapters is entitled "There Is No Place Like Nebraska," and we all know the song, and it's true. There is no place like that. I love the people. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, I was raised on a wheat and cattle ranch, small town. I loved getting out with them, and I think they were starved for that when I came in. And I told Hank Bounds and Ronnie Green, hey, I'm going to hit all those towns. That's where I feel at home. And if the scoreboard isn't reading right in the early days, we can talk about John Deere tractors, the Angus cattle, and the price of soybeans, and have a piece of pie and a cup of coffee or what have you, and fit in. And that was so much fun. I did 310 public appearances in my first 20 months.
Wow.
And it was a blast. And you don't catch flights to Valentine and North Platte and up into the sand hills. You got to get in the car and drive, and how fun that was too. And many times I had my wife Kendra with me, and we got to explore and really get to know these people. And the one thing, and I put in my book, that was so touching was Nebraskans are very humble people. They're very loyal people. They're football fanatics. I love that. That's been my life. But they're also extremely, they're very, I guess I would say patriotic. Very patriotic, and great philanthropy. The some of the events we do that would raise a couple $1 million for cancer research, and everybody pitching in and being involved. It was just a very heartwarming experience for us. And of course, when it got into the COVID period, very, very challenging. And I can get into detail on that, but I do in the book.
Okay.
I don't think people realize that we risked that when that COVID epidemic and the virus and all that, and we were all getting vaccinated and all this, but we were risking losing $100 million in a fiscal year in Nebraska athletics. And that would been a pretty good hit. And we were able, through a lot of behind the scenes and lobbying and sometimes threats and everything else, able to mitigate that down to below 20 million. And that in itself is maybe one of my accomplishments that I'm most proud of in all my years as a Division I AD.
Bill, I want to go back to that time, because there was multiple schedules released that year, and I know you were really involved in putting together the schedule that we thought was going to be the schedule that was well thought out, well laid out. It made a lot of sense. And then just one day they pulled the plug about a week later, and they said they weren't going to play football. And, Kevin Warren said this will not be revisited. And at that point, I think we're all like, whoa, what's going to go on here? And how did they get football back? When you think back to that time, like what I mean, was it Nebraska taking the Big Ten to court and some of these other things that, what was the thing that got it back to where you guys were able to play that year, even though it was really in November almost when the season started?
Well, I always, through all of this, felt I needed to represent Nebraska. Nebraska needs football, and football needs Nebraska. And it's a way of life. We all know the stories of generations of season tickets handed down. When I hired Scott Frost, that spring game, I heard you guys talk about spring ball. That spring game in 2018, we had 90,000 people for a spring game.
Yeah.
I mean, my heavens. And I went to bat for Nebraska. And when it came down to a lot of arguments, we were on 2 to 3 hour Zoom calls every single morning.
Boy.
Oh, for months and months. And there were tense moments, and there were words that probably aren't in the Book of Mormon that were exchanged, and it wasn't always pleasant. But when we started messing with the schedule, and as our fans remember, there was nobody in the stadium. We played college football in an empty stadium.
Strange.
And so many things had to be adjusted along the lines there just to get, just a couple of games. And that schedule was changed 3 times. We ended up on the 3rd schedule, which I didn't like that one either because, we were playing Penn State. We had pretty tough crossovers when we had the 2 divisions, as it turned out. But we did get some football. And yes, it helped our budget. But while we were struggling in empty stadiums and all of the politics that were going on, the SEC was filling stadiums and playing regular football.
Mm-hmm.
And I really cover this very, very much in detail, that the struggles at Nebraska, the struggles in the Big Ten. We had a brand new commissioner who had never been involved in college athletic administration, and it was a learning curve for him as well, and the medical pieces and the presidents and chancellors. And hey, I along with my father being a farmer and rancher who's also a politician, state legislator and all that. And I learned the politics from him as well as I learned football from my college coaches. So I think I was effective for the Huskers during those 4 years, especially on that stage.
Bill, you're in the process of writing this book, and you're writing it. You're not having a ghost writer. This isn't somebody writing it for you. This is Bill Moos sitting and writing his own book, right?
5:30 every morning right here in this barn. And you're right. There is no ghostwriter. Every word I've written, I've got a whole back room here with very organized tubs of every one of my stops. All of your great columns, Sip, are in those tubs. I've been laughing as I'm going through them. We did have a lot of fun, but also, World Herald and all through. I mean, Washington, Oregon, Montana, USA Today, Sports Illustrated. I've got all those that applied to my days. But I have a great editor, a best-selling author, a little older than me, lives in Las Vegas. But he takes care of the punctuation and maybe correcting some run-on sentences, but no content. This is my book. And I'm excited about it. And, you get to be our age or my age. You guys are younger, but you want to have something to hand down through the generations in the family too. And we were all involved. I call Kendra and I and the Moosketeers, our 5 kids that we uprooted in this industry you do, and had to move them to different towns, different schools. But hey, they were at a lot of bowl games and a lot of Final Fours and all that too. It was a family adventure. And I really highlight that along the way as well.
Bill, as we wrap it up here, I was thinking about this. Your final month at Nebraska was a month before NIL started. I mean, when you think back, you got out probably at the right time as kind of a traditionalist, but how hard are these jobs now for the athletic directors trying to manage this revenue share dollar money along with collectives and all this money that you seemingly have to find? And if you're not in the Big Ten or the SEC, it's not necessarily going to be there for a lot of these schools.
Well, again, you guys know me a lot better probably than the listeners and those that are tuned in. But I spent a lifetime in this career pushing for parity, where finally we got to see equal revenue sharing on these huge TV contracts. I was the architect of getting that done in the Pac-12. And so all of a sudden you see a Washington State go to a Rose Bowl. You see Northwestern and Purdue go to Rose Bowl. It's going to be pretty hard to ever see that again. And you saw Drew Brees and the Drew Bledsoes and these guys being those high draft choices and all that. Probably not going to see that anymore because, unfortunately, it's all about the individual now. And I stayed in here and I've talked, I know, to Sip many times. The thing I savored the most in my 4 years when I was a college football player and student athlete was the opportunity to get that education and the camaraderie of my teammates. When I put my hand down on 3rd and short inside the 20, I wasn't fighting so much for Bill Moos as I was my teammate next to me and the school that I loved. When you reach down and find just a little bit more, and I'm not sure that's there anymore. And I fought for student athlete welfare, nutrition, the psychologists, the strength and conditioning, all the big Adidas and Nike deals, all of that. I wanted them to have a chance to meet their potential. That was the whole thing. And so, hey, okay, when I was a kid playing football over 50 years ago, you went home in the summer, hauled hay and harvested wheat and maybe have $400 in my pocket. Couldn't do it anymore because it's a 12-month deal. So that's when, hey, all right, let's go with the cost of attendance piece. Because this kid needs to, go to a movie and maybe get a steak dinner once. So I was okay with that. But when it started to get to the money piece and the paychecks, the NIL, any sign of parity went down the drain. And then with the conference realignment, what do you got to think about? One day you wake up and USC and UCLA is gone from the Pac-12. No, nobody knew. Mm-hmm. And then boom, there goes Washington and Oregon. What are we teaching these young people? Deceit, dishonesty, all these things. That's what they're seeing, along with their coaches being paid $10 to $20 million. Mm-hmm. It's out of hand. And that train has left the station. And I don't know if it's ever going to be able to be slowed down. There's no control of it. I was so interested. I think Sean was saying it, and Sip, you're adding in. Where's the value of the scholarship? Way back, and I was still at Oregon, we took the pencil out. Greg Byrne, who I gave him his first job at Oregon, he's now, of course, the AD at Alabama. But we took our pencil down and sat down, and this was in 2006 or so. And we penciled out that out-of-state football player, for example, on a full ride out of state, when you added everything up, tuition, fees, board and room at campus rates, books, you get into what's the value of a personal trainer, of all of the shoes and apparel, of the nutrition, 3 square meals. Now, I'm telling you, this adds up. Well, it was over $200,000 value. Pretty good gig in those days for a 20-year-old. And I, for one, believe it still would be a good gig. And the other thing that you're going to see in my book, and I want to point out, the biggest thing you want to steer clear of, and in college athletics or anything, is a divided locker room. A divided locker room will show on the scoreboard. I don't care. And I believe that within, I had 350 employees at Nebraska. That was my locker room. I made sure every one of them got full use of the training table. Not somebody got to have lunch and others didn't. No way. Everybody got Adidas. We brought that locker room together. And all of my team's locker rooms were together because they all were getting the same thing. But I'm sitting in a football locker room right now, and I'm a left guard, and I'm looking at that quarterback. I'm thinking, hey, there's a divided locker room here. I don't care what you say. And life, really, at the end of the day, we're trying to teach these young men and women a couple lessons about what's coming down the line. And when it's all about me and it's not about us, you're gonna run into some problems later on.
Well, Bill, we appreciate it. We could have you on and just do a show every week with you if you want. I mean,
hey, I'm right here.
We just got through chapter 1, so we got a lot more ground to
It's
cover.
not like I got an appointment here, Sean, in 15 minutes.
You got to write, though. You got to get busy writing.
I'm pounding on this keyboard.
It's not easy, is it?
No, but it is a lot of fun, and a lot of respect for you guys who have been doing it all your professional careers. And let me say, I miss you guys. I miss the people in Nebraska. Go Big Red. Wonderful place.
Well, thank you,
miss
Bill.
You too, Bill. Thanks. Hey, this was nice of you to take time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.